The first $100,000 feels impossible because for a long time, nothing looks like it's working. You save money and it barely moves. You invest money and it barely grows. You skip things. You make sacrifices. You try to be responsible and your account still looks like a joke. That is the painful part, because before your money starts working for you, you have to do almost all the work yourself. And that is where most people break. Not because they are lazy, not because they are stupid, but because the beginning feels unfair. It feels like you are pushing a giant rock uphill while everyone else is driving past you in a nicer car. You save $200. Then your car needs repairs. You save $500. Then rent goes up. You finally invest a little money. Then the market drops. You try to build momentum. Then life punches you in the face. And after all of that, people still tell you, just be consistent, which is true, but also extremely annoying. Because consistency does not feel powerful at first. At first, consistency feels like doing a lot for almost no visible reward. That is why the first $100,000 is so brutal. It is not just a number. It is the stage where you are fighting against everything at once. Low momentum, small returns, high frustration, life expenses, temptation, comparison, and the feeling that maybe this whole wealth building thing is not actually working. But here is the truth. The first $100,000 is not painful because it is impossible. It is painful because it is the part where you have the least help. Your money is still weak. Your habits are still new. Your margin is still small. Your patience is still being tested. And your brain is still looking for proof. Proof that saving matters. Proof that investing works. Proof that sacrifice is worth it. Proof that you are not wasting your time. But early on, the proof is tiny. If you have $1,000 invested and it grows 10%, that is $100. Nice. But it does not change your life. If you have $10,000 invested and it grows 10%, that is $1,000. Better, but still not freedom. If you have $100,000 invested and it grows 10%, that is $10,000. Now you start to feel something. Same percentage, completely different impact. That is the problem with the beginning. The math is working, but the results are too small to feel exciting, so people quit before the numbers become meaningful. They look at a tiny gain and think, that's it? They save for months and think, this is too slow. They invest for a year and think, I'm still not rich. And then they go back to spending. Because spending gives instant proof. Investing gives delayed proof. Saving $100 feels boring. Spending $100 feels immediate. One gives you future freedom. The other gives you right now. And right now is very good at winning. That is why the first $100,000 is the test. It tests whether you can keep going before it feels worth it. It tests whether you can build while nobody claps. It tests whether you can choose boring progress over exciting distraction, because most people don't fail after money gets powerful. They fail before it gets powerful. They never give it enough time to become useful. Think of wealth like a snowball. When the snowball is tiny, you have to push it yourself. Every inch takes effort. It barely picks up snow. It keeps getting stuck. It does not look impressive. People can laugh at it. You can doubt it. You can feel stupid pushing it. But if you keep pushing, eventually it gets bigger. And once it gets bigger, the same push creates more movement. The snowball starts collecting more snow by itself. That is what the first $100,000 does. It does not make you rich overnight, but it gives your money enough size to start helping. Before that point, your effort is the engine. After that point, your money slowly starts becoming part of the engine. That is the shift, and it changes how everything feels. At $500, a 10% return buys you dinner. At $5,000, it pays a bill. At $50,000, it starts to feel noticeable. At $100,000, you finally understand why people talk about compounding. Not because it suddenly becomes magic, But because the base is finally big enough for growth to matter, that is why the first $100,000 is not just a money milestone, it is a psychological milestone. Because the person who reaches it has usually changed. They learned how to keep money. They learned how to delay gratification. They learned how to survive market swings. They learned how to ignore lifestyle pressure. They learned how to say no. They learned that money left alone can become powerful. And that is rare. Because most people never get there. Not because they never earn enough money in their lifetime, but because money keeps leaking. It leaks through car payments, food delivery, subscriptions, weekend spending, random upgrades, lifestyle creep, debt interest, I deserve it purchases. And the biggest leak of all, normal life getting more expensive every time income goes up. That is how people stay at zero. They don't always make one huge mistake. They just keep interrupting the snowball. Every time it starts to grow, they take from it. Every time they get ahead, they upgrade something. Every time they build a little margin, life finds a way to eat it. And then they wonder why wealth feels impossible. But wealth is not impossible. It is just very easy to interrupt. That is the brutal truth. The first $100,000 requires you to protect progress that does not look impressive, yet that is hard. Because nobody cares when you go from $2,000 to $3,000. Nobody sees it. Nobody compliments you. Nobody says, wow, amazing discipline. But if you spend that same $1,000 on something visible, people notice. That is why looking successful is easier than becoming successful. Looking successful gives social rewards now. Becoming successful gives private rewards later. And private rewards are harder to stay loyal to. This is where most people get trapped. They want the feeling of progress, so they buy the appearance of progress. Better clothes, better car, better apartment, better lifestyle, more experiences, more comfort. But behind the scenes, the net worth is not moving. The account is not growing. The investments are not building. The future is not getting stronger. They look ahead. But financially, they are standing still. And the first $100,000 punishes that. Because you cannot fake your way there. You actually have to keep money. You actually have to build the gap. You actually have to stop every raise from disappearing. You actually have to let boring money stack quietly. That is why it feels painful. It forces you to live with the gap between who you want to look like and what you are actually building. And that gap can hurt. But it is also where wealth begins. So how do you make the first $100,000 less painful? First, stop expecting it to feel exciting. The beginning is not supposed to feel exciting. It is supposed to feel repetitive. You are laying bricks, one paycheck, one transfer, one investment, one debt payment, one avoided stupid purchase, 1 month at a time. Nobody builds a wall by staring at the wall. They build it brick by brick. Second, focus on your savings rate more than your returns. Early on, your contributions matter more than market performance. If you have $2,000 invested, a great return will not change much. But increasing how much you save can change everything. The first stage is not about being a genius investor. It is about creating money that can stay invested. Third, protect your money from lifestyle creep. This is the silent killer. You get a raise. You feel richer, so your life gets more expensive, and suddenly the raise is gone. You did not build wealth. You just upgraded your bills. The first $100,000 becomes much easier when you let income rise faster than lifestyle. That gap is where wealth lives. Fourth, make the process automatic. Do not rely on motivation. Motivation is weak. Automation is stronger. Money comes in. A piece goes to savings. A piece goes to investing. A piece goes to debt payoff before your lifestyle can touch it, because if you wait to save what is left, there will usually be nothing left. Fifth, understand that boring is not broken. Boring is the system working. A growing account is boring. Index investing is boring. Emergency funds are boring. Not upgrading everything is boring. Paying yourself first is boring. But boring is where the money stays long enough to become powerful. Exciting money usually leaves. Boring money builds. And finally, stop comparing your early stage to someone else's later stage. You might be watching people with bigger incomes, older portfolios, family help, business exits, or 10 extra years of compounding. You do not see the whole story. You only see the highlight. And if you compare your first $5,000 to someone else's $500,000, you will feel behind forever. The only comparison that matters is this. Is your money getting stronger than it was last year? Do you have more margin, less debt, more invested, more control, more options? If yes, you are moving, even if it feels slow, especially if it feels slow, because slow is normal before the snowball has size. That is the part people misunderstand. They think wealth starts when everything feels fast. No, wealth starts when things feel painfully slow. And you keep going anyway. That is why the first $100,000 is the painful part. It is the proof stage, the patient stage, the boring stage, the nothing is happening stage. But if you survive it, everything after starts to feel different. Not easy, but different. Because now your money has weight, your habits have strength, your system has momentum, and your future finally has something working for it. So if $100,000 feels impossible right now, good. That means you are looking at the wall everyone has to climb. But the wall is not there to stop you. It is there to filter out the people who quit too early, the people who need fast results, the people who keep interrupting the process, the people who want wealth without patience. Do not be one of them. Build the gap, stack the boring money, protect the snowball, let time do its job. Because the first $100,000 may feel impossible, but impossible is often just what slow progress feels like before it becomes obvious. Subscribe for more simple, animated finance videos.